We're ready to go.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining today. My name is Caitlin Crook, and I'm the Assistant Director of Affinity Programs. And on behalf of Alumni Relations, really thank you for joining us today. And, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat box as I kind of share how the session will work. So today, we're really excited to have Amy Wilderson as our guest speaker today. And before we, kick off this great conversation, I want to review a few housekeeping items for you all. So number one, please use the chat feature to ask any questions, and we will have plenty of time for discussion and Q&A at the end of the session. If you're having any technical difficulties, please direct message my colleague Sarah McAllister, and she will assist you with any of those tech issues. And lastly, this session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel this afternoon. And we'll share the link to access this session and all previous PDS sessions in the chat. So with that being said, we can, just get right into it, get right into the nitty gritty. First, I would like to say I want to thank Amy for really taking the time to be here with us today. And, just mention that the goal of our conversation is just to learn about, her professional journey. And, she's going to provide us with a ton of takeaways for anyone that's interested in pursuing roles in the arts, as well as understanding what it looks like, to make a career pivot. So, just to get us started, Amy, can you introduce yourself, a little bit of background and anything else that, you think would be helpful as we start this conversation?
Okay, well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm really appreciative of you all for that, and I'm so happy to be here myself. My name is Amy Wilderson, Newcomb 85, class of 85, and Foley. And I am a jewelry artist and a teaching artist now. That's been my life for part of what I'll talk about is the pivoting into being a craft person, designer, into saying I'm an artist. And that pretty much happened in 2012 when I said, with confidence, I am an artist. I'm in Minneapolis, where it is 5 degrees and everybody's all excited because that's warm. And I'm seeing backgrounds and seeing how beautiful and green it is. And I have envy, but I'll be all right. I have worked in a number of different fields, and we're going to be talking about that too. So I guess I don't know. I think I'm really bad with introductions, but as we go along, you'll get more idea of who I am and how this has all come to be. I think so. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, I guess my first question is, what is kind of like a key piece of advice that you would give your younger self when you were first starting, as a professional?
The first is, and this is an ongoing thing, get to know yourself, know what you're interested in. But what I'm saying is do that in spite of and outside of other people. Because what I did as a young person in college, all the way up to really just a number of years when I said this is my life, was, and you have to consider other people. I have 5 children, had family, and those things obviously play into who you are and what you're going to do. But knowing what is motivating you, what you want to do from the get-go, will really help. For instance, I wanted to be a ceramicist, even at Tulane. I also wanted to, get in there and blow glass. And there are a number of reasons why I couldn't health-wise, but also my parents weren't having it. They were not about, they had the starving artist, they love art, and we were surrounded by art, but we were not, my siblings and I were not going to be creative, which all of us are. So that didn't work. But it took me the longest to really own that. So know that, and then as you're working, as you're creating your life, find those ways to nourish that, whatever it is. One of the things that I do now when I'm writing grant proposals or applying for exhibitions, they ask for your artist statement, ask, all these questions. And I use those to gauge myself, see where I am and where I want to go. And is this in alignment with what I want? And that question, is this in alignment? That answer should come throughout, but before you get started. So that's one thing. I think I went back to the choices first, but keep asking questions, stay curious, and take note of the people that say that's a dumb question, because you don't want them. You can keep them around, but keep them to the side, because being curious, being inquisitive will help inform where you're going in your life. And shutting that down, oh, I shouldn't ask that, it's bothersome, really closes yourself off. And I feel fortunate. My mother was the person that she always said, if you get lost, because she was directionally challenged, but she would always say, we're gonna stop at this place and it's interesting, we're gonna go in and find out what goes on there. And 9 times out of 10, somehow or another, that interaction would play into her life later on. So I kind of got accustomed to at least considering that, and being able to ask, oh, what are you doing here? What's going on? Well, I do X, Y, and Z. I wonder how these things make sense to each other, or do they not at all? Let's see here. I took notes. So you can change your mind. You can pivot. People aren't going to necessarily like it or understand it, and you might not either, which is something that happened to me. It's like, but I have to do X, Y, and Z. But at some point, you can change your mind and say, this isn't the way I need it to go. Not that it's not working, but I need to make things go in another direction. And sometimes pivots happen to you. You're gonna have to stop me, Katie, because I'll talk. But one of my biggest pivots was last year. I had surgery, and it was a complicated surgery, and I'm still kind of going through that. So I could not lift heavy things. I couldn't wield my hammers and do a lot of torch work. But I also got an opportunity. I was asked to start teaching a little bit earlier, but teaching started coming up more and more. And I thought, okay, well, I need to do something creative, stay in that flow. I also need to make a living. And so that pivot was something that before I said, I don't ever want to be a teacher, not in the systems that were available at the time. And this was something different. So, and now I'm at a place where I'm changing my mind again and pivoting back to doing more creative work on my own.
Okay. And so just to kind of pivot off that question, how do you take that leap of faith, or like, what is, like, okay, I'm doing this. Like, what does that feel like? What does that look like?
I had a friend who was very upset with me because I would say, I'm gonna even sit crying. And she was like, well, how can you, and it depends on your life. At some points in my life, I didn't have a choice. I was, I just, the leap was gonna happen one way or another. And so I might as well embrace it. And then I also, all right, let me change it. Early on, I started homeschooling my children. I had 5 of them, and I was doing that. I started a bookstore, a book and gift shop. And so all of those things were not necessarily in my plan at the time. What happened was I was working on healthcare for the homeless project, and I was coming off of my maternity leave from child number 3, and my position was a grant position. And so during my maternity leave, they kind of wrote me out of the project, so I fought it for a little while, but I said, why am I fighting for something I'm kind of burned out from? I love the work, but I have 3 small people here to take care of. And what's the next thing that I'm, want to do? We had always talked about opening a bookstore and a gift shop and stuff. So, okay, I'll give it a try. And some of the small business administration classes and things. So again, it was, I don't have this job. I've hit that level where to advance, I'd have to, go back and get my master's. I've got 3 small people, and I can't do that. And there also are no lateral positions for me, so I don't have a choice. I have to make something happen, and that goes to another thing is, again, examining the things that you love to do, find a way to make them work, which doesn't always happen so smoothly. I'm 61. I'm 60. I'll be 61 at the end of February, and this has been a life of, you know, steps and cases, and sometimes they don't even look like they make any sense to other people. But I can see where that progression goes, and you have to kind of stick with that as well. So pivoted again out of, I won't say desperation, but out of limited options. Having the children in daycare was going to be as expensive as working someplace else. And I love books, so why not open a bookstore, which is work. It's not something, oh, it must be so nice to have a hobby where you can sit and read all day. I'm like, behold, three small people, you know, one is breastfeeding as we're talking. And I'm also learning how to do this business thing, you know, have the shop and everything. So
Yeah. So I think that, it seems like family is really kind of like a cornerstone or like a foundational piece of like your life and your career. How would you define kind of like that work-life balance? And what does that look like?
it has changed. Um, Again, one of the one of my when I had the shop and we had it here in Minneapolis, then we moved to South Carolina. 2 weeks before baby number 5 was, and on the way out of the house, I said, "Oh, I think I found a spot for our next shop." I'm like, yeah, 5 kids, I can do that. Um, so the ask me that one more time. I'm sorry, I went off on that tangent.
It's how would you kind of describe your work-life balance and how does
Right,
that look?
because that's what happened. The work-life balance was really, really tough during that time. And I gave precedence to my children, obviously, and moved them through all into college. Right now, I live in, it's called the Northside Art Space Lofts. It's part of the Art Space organization, which has actually in New Orleans, the Bell, I think it was a school. It's part of that. It's a live work environment, a live work community for primarily artists. So I'm in my studio slash living space, you know, and I love being here. So my work-life balance is I live and work in this place and I go out to do other projects and everything. And I am responsible for my life. I have to, get the gig or the grants or put my things in my pieces in exhibitions. I have to do the applications. I have to do all the things that make this living here possible, but I love it because again, it is my life and I'm at that place and getting more of that into being able to choose. So, so taking into account all of your variables when you're doing this, this balance, which, is not really balanced, is it? We have things that take precedence and we have to do the things, and sometimes it's small people, and sometimes it's the job, but we talk about it as if there is this balance. And I think it's a juggling. And if we can get that juggle motion going smoothly, as opposed to saying they're equal and they're even right here, it's never worked for me. It never has, you know. And my store in South Carolina, notorious for I'll get there when I get there because I've got small people to feed and diapers and everything else, and and education along the way. So if we see a deer, a roadkill or something, we might stop and examine the roadkill, whatever it takes, because that's what took that was what came first. So
I love that. I love that. And now I kind of want to get into your art. And I guess my next question is like, what are some common like assumptions or like even misconceptions that people have, just about you working with jewelry, working for yourself, and how do you feel about those? Like, how do you challenge those assumptions?
oh, the first one is the starving artist. That's even my parents. My mother, when I told her that I was asking permission, like I'm doing more of this, and she goes, even opening the store. Well, let's like weigh the cons and the pros. Like, isn't it the pros and the cons? But she went straight to the what are all the things that can go wrong? Well, what are all the things that can go right? And the thing about that is there's so much more than what we know that um I say just if it's possible to do the thing that you want, but be open to something else happening. It's exciting for me to have those kinds of things happen. So for the starving artists, and again, in this community that I'm in, we frequently have coffee meetings, just hang out and talk about what everybody's doing. And someone will say, "Oh, would you join me in?" And this happened. A woman had a project and was bringing on some other artists, and someone bailed, just didn't show up. She goes, "Will you fill in for me?" I said, "Sure, why not?" And I talked about my jewelry and memory work and everything. This was with elders, and that group asked for me to come back. And so they rewrote the contract for me to do 6 more sessions. I'm making a living by doing this thing by just talking to someone about something, found out we had a lot of other things in common, and her project was similar to mine. I'm going to quote one of the people that about arts in Minnesota and funding, finding those places where you can support yourself financially. Money's important. Got to make it, want to make it, want to live a particular life. So in each state, there's usually within the city or the state, there's an arts board, some kind of arts council. And I would say check in with those people and see what kind of resources, what kind of funds flow through. And I'll just read this woman, friend of mine now, Brenda Hazer, is with the City of Minneapolis Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. And that's the thing, art, culture, and the creative economy. Minnesota has positioned itself to fund art and promote art. Interestingly enough, in ways that put per capita more funding than New York and California have. And I contacted her because I heard her say that in a talk many years ago. And that was one of the things when people say, "Oh, you can't make money, you can't live," and everything. I said, "Oh, Brenda says not so." So I'm going to just read this if you don't mind, because I figured it out. So arts and culture are so important to the economy that the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis tracks the industry. In 2020, arts and culture production accounted for 4.2% of the U.S. gross domestic product, $876.7 billion in revenue in the pandemic year. In Minnesota, arts and culture account for almost 82,000 jobs, and the industry's production is higher than that of agriculture, construction, and transportation, and warehousing. It's one of our few positive international trade industries. We export more than we import. And Minneapolis in 2018, revenues from core and nonprofit enterprises was almost 5.5 billion, and there are almost 26,000 creative industry jobs. So I'm in the place to be to keep my life going. But as I look again, coming back to New Orleans or going to other places, I take that into consideration. So the starving artist thing, you can say, Amy said, not true. We just have to find out where the money is and where people are interested in what you do. Another assumption, I think it's about the hobby thing. You get to do that. I work so much harder now because it's all me. I have been challenged to keep a schedule, so I do that with my business hours, like almost a 9 to 5. But the work outside the back end stuff is constant in a good way because I live in a place where I can do that. So if I get, is that me buzzing? I hear some feedback. Okay, if I get tired or overwhelmed, say I'm going to go take a nap or look out the window or read a book, and I will be back to this thing because I can. I know my deadlines and I know how I need to get things done. Let's see here. And a lot of that changed, especially for jewelry artists. We're considered, generally speaking, craft and design. And I got I applied for an opportunity as a jewelry designer, and my work was my business plan was perfect. I said that, but my heart was slammed. They tore me apart, and I had to look at that and say, okay, I made a wrong decision here. My work is not in alignment with this organization, with the, it was a jewelry supply company, and it was silver. And at the time I was working in copper, and I was moving into silver if I got this, this opportunity. But they're like, it's not really going to sell computers and gemstones and, bra underwire. That's kind of weird. I thought, yes, it is, but that's what I do. So we're not right for each other. Not that I'm wrong. I just need to do the work to find my people or have my people come to me, because I'm going to keep doing it. So I just recently was awarded the Visual Art Fund, which is a grant through the Midway Contemporary Art in Minnesota, but is re-granted from the Andy Warhol Foundation for Contemporary Art. And that has changed a lot of people's perception about jewelry as art and me as an artist. And I'm going to work that. So you'll be seeing me everywhere because it's about time. I applied for the Jerome Foundation grant a couple of years ago, and I also check in with the directors, and whenever there's an info session, I do a lot of that, talking about what I do. And she said, I'll be honest, the jurors, the curators are not going to be open to you. Jewelry is just not something that we consider. And but what she did for me was she added that medium to the potential artist, and it's on there to this day. And so I'm like, I'm proud of that. I'm happy about that. Of course, I did not get the I didn't get the fellowship and everything, but that's that. And another assumption is having to do with failure. You're going to fail, if you want to call it that. I think I said before, I just got a rejection from an application of yesterday. I'm like, okay, you'll see me next year because I'm going to keep doing this. But also, it's not the right time, or you have to get accustomed to whatever. But I'm going to keep putting myself and my work out there because I want to keep doing it. And people say, well, I just don't like that. That's really good information for both of us to know. You don't like it means it's not for you. Not that you don't like it, so I need to stop. And it's not been, like I'm strong in that now, but the questions, the doubt, the overthinking. So,
yeah, critiques and feedback.
Yeah. But one of the things, we'll talk later about, when you ask me the last couple of questions, I've got something on that too. So.
Well, I guess my next question will kind of be, we've got a question in the chat. How do you find grants to apply for?
Oh, great question. Great question. Okay, so there are a number of organizations, national ones, United States Artists and Artist Archive, artistarchive.org. Here in Minnesota, Springboard for the Arts is an arts organization that does branch out nationally, and they list a lot of, United States Artists and Artist Archive. Those are two different ones. Yes, Springboard for the Arts, yes. But go to that site, springboardforthearts.org, because they list grants locally and nationally. And I will, Katie, I'll give you another list of some more resources, because that is, again, part of my job. I have to research where the grants were, and sometimes it's where exhibitions are. Not just give me the money, but where can I show my work, and make decisions about that. So I spent a lot of time doing that research, looking at, again, if this is a fit, applying, getting rejected, applying, getting accepted. And we used to call it grant writing season around here. So it was grant writing season. And it seems to have just kept, extending. I mean, I've got 3 applications under review right now. And when I get off here, maybe toward the end of the week, I'll actually filling an application for 2 more. So it's been this constant thing, which says the interest in arts, the funding for arts is there. But the rejection I got, they said there were like 578 applicants, and 21 were going to be chosen. Mm-hmm. And I knew going in it was going to be 21, but I didn't know it was 578. I was like, okay, all right, you see me next year or whenever the next one comes around. And also in doing that, and get on a lot of newsletters with the museums and galleries, even the smaller ones, because they announce a lot of that. And so again, like I said, I spend quite a bit of time going through my email and looking at newsletters and seeing what's going on. SURF, CERF, surfplus.org, CERF+.org is another organization that has emergency funding. They've funded a lot of artists in New Orleans and other places when natural disasters or when disasters happen, not always natural. And then they promote good practices, being safety-wise, and pushing your work a little bit further. But they also give information about other organizations. So, yeah. And I tell people, don't find this through that one, but they'll tell me the same. So that network is really important as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So in thinking about just like networking and connecting, another way of connecting I think about is like mentoring, mentorship. Like what kind of role has that played in your life, and what kind of advice would you give to recent graduates that are looking for mentors and, people in their fields already?
I wish I had done that earlier. One of the things that I did not do was I asked some questions, but I thought I was supposed to do it on my own. And you're not supposed to. You can't. You don't know what you're doing to do it on your own. So being mentored is wonderful, and eventually being a mentor to others. I have a mentor now. I'm in the recent cohort for Compass, which is a teaching artist organization, first based in Minnesota, and now they've expanded, so we can go other places, New Orleans, and teach there. And part of that process is to work with someone who has been teaching with Compass or been teaching, longer, not necessarily in the same. Well, I think I'm the only Julie artist again. So Micah is my mentor, and I have observed some of her work. She'll come and sit on some of mine. She's coming tomorrow to my event, and then we sit and we talk about that. I had an experience that was really challenging. I had some challenging people. They were challenging me and everything. It was so hard. And I was like, okay, so I did not lose my cool, but I need to talk through this. What do I do? How do I pivot to give them the best experience possible? Because I'm maverick and I'm not doing it. And we talked openly. I would also say, get accountability buddies or partners, one in your industry and one way outside of your industry, so that you get that perspective, and not someone saying, oh, you're doing right, you're doing great. Someone's like, that doesn't make sense to me. Explain to me what's going on, so that you can tell it to somebody else who doesn't know. And sometimes you're like, you're right, that's not really the way I should be doing this, or yes, but this is what I need to do more of. So somebody, and that will change. Sometimes you'll move in different directions, and that relationship is no longer useful, or you're just too busy, whatever. But try to have that and be that to someone, accountability. And definitely talk about the level of honesty / critique / what support looks like, because some people want to be connected to someone who's going to be their cheerleader without just cheerleader flat, and not give any constructive criticism. And if that is going to cause you stress, you don't want to be in that situation either. So those agreements are really important.
I love that. I love that. Well, my next question is, what are you working on right now? Like, what's your thing right now? What are you doing?
I am pivoting again back to creating. So this last year or so, 2 years, I've been doing teaching. And again, I just received the Minnesota State Arts Board grant it's a creative support for individual artists. So this one it's restricted to doing something to move your art into the next level. And so I'm going back to some of the old pieces that I had ideas about, but didn't have the ability to make in the way that I wanted to. So I'm going to be taking some classes. I love learning, and I'm going to take some classes from an artist who I like her style, because she'll get where I'm going with mine. I'm just really excited about that. And at the end of this, I will have another collection and put that in another exhibit. Probably won't here at Art Space, but I'll be moving that into my next work. And I'm fixing up my website. I had this website too. It's go to my website, to look at it and go, she's so busy. She can't do any better than this. So I'll do better soon.
So the best way to get in contact with you would be like if any attendees have any more questions or they want to
sure.
that would be your website.
Yep, or my email, amy@amyajewelry.com. Yep. And Amy A Jewelry is .com is my website, obviously. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, even my personal one, Amy Wilderson. Go ahead and friend me and we can chat there. And Instagram. I have a blog and I don't blog. So every now and again I'll get on there and when I start typing, I just totally overthink and the grammar kicks in. I'm like, oh, you know what, my tenses are wrong. So I will just talk and you'll just watch me.
I love it. Well, now we'll kind of just open up the floor for questions. So anyone with any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I already have one question that was direct messaged to me. Okay. Someone asked, where would Amy recommend someone to look who is looking, to kind of like change? Like, where is the resource for finding paths? What do you think?
Let's see here. Moving into art or just change in general, change in your life?
I think just change in general.
That's okay. Let's see here. I want to say that's such a personal path because when you're making changes, you're going to be surprised, or maybe not, by how people around you that are close to you might be resistant to that. I've gotten accustomed to viewing you as this person. Who are you now? What's going on here? And as you're moving into these changes, and considering that, it might pull you back. So if you have a source, I don't know, spiritual or the thing that moves you, the thing that you like doing, that gives you joy. If you can find someone in that vein, just again, this is where networking comes into play. That might be a place to start. I can't really think. I honestly, I felt isolated and did a lot of it on my own for the longest time because I did not have that support, and there was a lot of resistance to me making changes in my life. So I'll have to. I will find something and get back to you, Katie. Maybe answer that a little bit better. And I really apologize for not having a better answer than that.
No, I think that's perfect. I think it takes some self-reflection for sure.
Very much so.
Yeah. Let's see. We have another question in the chat. We have a ton of questions actually. What has been the most rewarding part of this journey for you?
Everything. I am, like I said, learning new techniques to apply to old stuff that I didn't think I could do is exciting. Living in the community, and I am proud of myself for having done the work to be a part of this community, because not only do you have to use the regular application, but you have to have show your work, and you don't have to be like super totally accomplished or anything, but just doing it and putting yourself out there in front, that's just cool. Networking, because you just never know how. I was going to my teaching one of my classes, and I'm not driving because of my surgery, so I'm an Uber. And the guy asked me where we're going and where, it's the Art Space loft on the building. He goes, well, is that work? I said, well, where can I live here? And he goes, well, the place you're going was another gallery. I said, I'm going to teach there. And he's like, well, what do you do for your real job? This is my real job. I'm going to. But in the course of this conversation, and the drive was a long way out, he says, oh, I have a buddy who is an artist, and he has no one to talk to. And do you have a card? Can I give you your card? Maybe, you guys can talk. And this guy's in Tennessee or someplace. And I said, yeah, sure, fine. And we connected. And then it was this polar thing. So I'm connected to these people from an Uber driver who doesn't really appreciate art, but his friend did. And just being able to use my work as a starting off point has been I love that. So.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like you can make connections almost anywhere. Is what I'm picking up from that.
Again, that's what I teach in the class. People will ask you about your jewelry and be prepared to answer however you want to, but then have that conversation going. Be comfortable with that and let the other person say, oh, I never thought about making something. I'm not an artist. Maybe I can make something too.
That's a great way to look at it. Let's see. We have another question in the chat. If you are a quote unquote creative and make a lot of different things, how do you decide what to sell or marketing multiple products? And how do you find or connect with your customers / consumers?
Yeah, this is a lot of, I have friends who do have multiple streams of creativity. And I'm not one to say, marketing says, stick to one and do that, because it's not fun. And you have to figure out what is the thing that that you love to do, maybe the most, even when there's work that has to be done, taxes, around that. And will you be able to keep going with that? Yes, what is going to generate income? And you might want to put things in different spaces. For instance, with my store, it was a metaphysical book and gift shop, and we also allowed some of the students at the local college to show and sell their work so that they would get the credit to say that they had been in shop. But that also brought in a lot of the conversations and everything else. So with the shop, when I shut it down in 2012, I kind of have an online presence. I got to get back on that too. But I still have customers from there. Oils and incense that my kids and we blended and did all stuff way different from what I do with jewelry, but it's still creative and it still generates some income. So, and I have to put that to the side to focus more on jewelry. But another thing that I do is I put this out. It's a brain dump. This is just when I'm thinking about stuff, and I used to call it doodling and everything. And I was thinking about, like, I've got all my notebooks always have in the margins, have something like that. I thought I need to probably do something more with it. So I was trying to figure out how to make this art more. And I went on Friday to an exhibit, Arlene Burke Morgan and Clarence Morgan. And they're a creative couple. She passed on, but my work is in line with her, very similar. She works in acrylic, and I thought that might be the thing to do, to move this, that I would call the brain dump, and I do some etching with some of these pieces, but then to move it into class. So I'm not one to say stick to one thing and do that, but maybe focus for a minute on one and then move into the other and see if they do kind of blend into each other. Don't cut your creative, because that thing that you think isn't going to make money might be the thing that gives you so much joy, and because you have so much joy, then you find a way to do that. So, and then as far as where to put that, start small and don't spend a lot of money. Some of the platforms, I think Etsy has gotten kind of up with prices, and it is kind of a flooded market. But to get your feet in there, to get in the practice of doing something like that, just maybe put a few pieces out there to say I have a presence, and then build on it from there. Because again, nothing happens overnight. I'll be 61. I keep saying I like being 61, and I have wanted to be an artist since I was like 7 or 8. It's a long way to go, but I'm really happy that I kept up, because I get to talk to everybody here.
That's great. We have a couple more questions, so I'll keep listening, and we'll just keep going.
Bring it.
Let's see. What about the opposite situation? So moving from arts into a more traditional profession, do you have any advice for gaining skills and competing with other job seekers that may have more relevant experience?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Don't, the competition is for the position, but competing with what they do and what you do is where you kill it. Kill yourself. Not kill yourself, where you cut into your spirit. So when I left New Orleans, heartbroken or whatever, I took a job through networking. I was offered a position. This was the third time I said I better take it because I'm not going to get it again. But it was working with computers, which I had avoided. This is 87, 88, and I had avoided computers. And so now my job is going to be working with computers. And turns out I'm going to be teaching, it's kind of securities, but I'll be teaching the Department of Labor, US Department of Labor, how to basic computer skills. So what am I going to do here? I worked from the perspective of not knowing how to do it, not from being the expert. And I was really good at it. I say that because like, I get it. Where's the button to turn the thingy on? Let's start there. Let's just break down all this. Oh, I'm the teacher, I'm this, that. So sometimes your weaknesses are actually your skills. And when you compete with someone else with what they do, we lose sight of what we have. And I always go from that. I remember that about myself because, like, you know, what happened was I was relegated to making copies of training material, and I had done this in Workstation College at one point, and I'm looking with like typos and all this stuff. So I'm editing it, which I got a job to do, and I'm also saying that doesn't make sense because I don't know how would that work if I were to try it myself. So at a lunch break, I sat in there and I in the tech and I went through the training material to see if I could learn something, and it wasn't working. So the president of the company came through. He said, "What you doing?" I said, "This is, I don't know anything about computers, but I can tell you this isn't going to work." And he says, rewrite it and then teach it because you don't know, because that's what I said. That was my skill. So
I love it. Let's see. Another question. This one's more focused on art. How do you identify demand in a market as an artist?
Demand follows trend, and your art isn't necessarily trendy. That's what happened with the grant, the competition, and it was a competition. My work was not. It was my computer element pieces with gemstones and energy and stuff, and I'm like, she is so strange. This is not going to sell in the mass market, and it's not. It's not for everyone. So I'm taking what I do and I'm finding where it fits, or not where it fits, where people can see that, oh, that's so cool. I never thought of that before. Can I buy one? Yes, you may. So the market, the market, and you see it, what is and I love it. What is the color of the year? And that's great. And then with jewelry, a lot of people make things, and I think it's magenta this time, and it's a beautiful color. But to see so much magenta out there, there's all these other colors and shades going on over here. Do something with a thing that moves you, because that's where your motivation comes through. And then there will be those people, and this is where your market is, those people that are gravitating towards what you do, not towards the trend. And then you can change. If it comes, like, I'm done, I can do something else. So you don't even have to stick in the thing that you've built.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Let's see. I think we have one final question. We have someone asked, do you have any best advice for making work changes when you are older? For context, they work in banking.
Okay. And just something different from banking. One day, maybe almost 2 years ago, I woke up, I had a phone call. I was really focusing on my, and so I was, getting all of my, I had asthma, and I was like going to my appointments and getting my blood pressure, under control. And I got this call to remind me for an appointment. And I was like, I don't know what hit me. Well, I do, but I'm not telling you. what came of it was, I'm not going to go out unfulfilled. And 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 if I do these things, if I stay doing some of the things that I'm doing, and I were to, not if, what if you pass today, that kind of thing, we don't have any control, and that's a fear motivation. What nourishes you, and how can you integrate that into banking for now, and then shift it off into something else later on? So a lot of times people think that we have to make these big major changes and announce it to the world. And then that onslaught of you're going to fail, this is not like you, and all these things happen. Again, go inside. What is important to you? What do you want to do that maybe you can do alongside banking? And then it's like, banking is just not working for me, and keep on going. Just let it shake off. And that's so simple to say, and I know that's not the truth of it. It takes a lot more than that. If you're accustomed to a particular way of living, how do you finance that? How do you keep that going? Or are you willing to say, I need to shift into another gear in order to do this thing so I can shift back into that,
Yeah.
I'll say this one thing. I went to my elementary school reunion when we first moved back. And one of my friends had pictures of us. We were like, 2 and 3 years old, because we've known each other for all that long. And this woman she's just, high corporate, just powerhouse woman. And, I love her dearly from, being babies together. And so I'm looking at her like, how you did that thing, which is what she was going to do. And she says, oh, I really wish I could, I'm so in awe of you. I'm so proud of you. I wish I could do that thing. And I'm like, whoa, this is not what I expected, because again, I'm still trying to be, and it's so funny, we were talking to Sarah before about being successful. You get to decide what success means. Someone else will always put their judgment or their meaning on you, and that's just their opinion. And it might be helpful for a gauge, but it's not yours. So I was at that place where I'm saying, my friend Julie, she's so successful. She's doing all these things, and she did all of the things, and that's where she is. And she's looking at me really like, oh, wow, I'm not creative, and I wish I was this, I wish I was that. And I was like, we have to live our own lives. Again, we're intersected with other people and everything, but that core and doing something to keep that nourished is really important. And you're the only one who gets to decide that. No one.
That's a great piece of advice. And, I think for me that this whole conversation we have, like the main takeaway that I kind of took from it was your path, your life path, your career path is not linear. There's tons of, roadblocks, turns, twists, going back to something, you really just have to find what you're passionate about and what you want to do. And at some point it's going to manifest, is what it seems like. So, kind of just as we close out, I would want to hear from you kind of if, what is the major thing that we should take away? Like if I didn't listen to this entire presentation, give me like a sentence or two, like, what do you think? Like, what is this?
I think for everyone, because again, not everybody is looking to be into art or anything, is kind of that know yourself, which is a process. But be honest about it, not in the context of what other people are doing, but what do I really like to do? What really just, I just wanna learn how to make videos, because I do. I just want to do this thing here. And when you do that, my mother, she got her little overalls and, learned how to change oil and, car mechanic stuff. And she was a psychologist, PhD and everything, which, stuff. And the thing about it is that once you do that one thing and you start being honest about what you're really interested in, other things can open up if you are open to letting them show. Because we don't even know. Someone asked me where do I see myself in 5 years or 10 years? I'm like, I'm going to give you such the wrong answer, because I'm not doing that anymore. I'm open to whatever. And as I'm open, thank you. Now all these, I mean, I have the friend that gave me asked me to work on her project. Sometimes she looks at me like, what's going on here? It's like, I'm just like, okay, not okay, because there is some preparation, a lot of preparation is involved, but being open to things like, oh, I never considered that possible, or I never considered it possible now. So find that maybe one little thing in your core that's like, I really would like to, explore this a bit more, and open up, and then just let the other stuff come on in. Come on in. And you don't have to take it all on, because I know, yeah, that's not gonna work. But it's cool, just do that. Some stuff.
I love it. Well, I just want to say thank you again for joining us. This was lovely. We need to do this more often for sure.
Invite me down there. I'm coming.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And yeah, so I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you all the participants and attendees for joining. Like we said at the beginning, this will be available via our YouTube channel. So everybody have a great afternoon.
Take care, everyone.